the idols. We had question. Who had asked question about idols? I think it was Michelle. Who did ask yesterday question?
I asked you something. I think it was me actually that mentioned the idols. That Rachel took the idols.
Yes.
Yes.
Rabbis offered this solution. Just to give me a second, I messed up my notes. She said Laban used these idols for divination. Okay, according to rabbis, some rabbis, you never have all rabbis claiming the same, but some rabbis claim that she stole them so that Laban would not have way by divination to find out where are they going.
That's an interesting concept.
Yes, and the other rabbi says that she took them so that to force her father to move his faith from idols to true God. Okay, so kind of saying she stole them in order that he would reconsider his actions, saying to himself that any God which allow himself to be stolen surely cannot be much good to anyone.
So it wasn't because she wanted them for herself.
Well,
no.
That is some rabbis try to find a way to explain it this way.
I was thinking maybe she took them to sell them because she had earlier been concerned about her inheritance.
Yeah, it might be. We'll never know what is true intention. We have just what we have in the Bible, and then we are led to guess the intentions, knowing the character or something. So that would be possible, but rabbis like to see everything, all these characters as holy, so they would try to show them in good light.
See, I was thinking she took them because she wasn't taking any chances. She still hadn't had complete belief in Jacob's God.
I would say that that's possibility too. Quite. Yeah. We were discussing idols when you were. There were three other possibilities why she took them. I was reading the commentaries on that. So rabbis give possibility that she took them because Laban would use them for divination, so he could not find out where they are going, or that she wanted him to move from faith in idols to faith in other gods, real God. Like that Jews often use argument like this: if that God can be stolen, then he's not good for anybody else.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let's just for a moment go to chapter 35. We read already a part of that chapter. I will read just first verse. God said to Jacob, "Move on, go to Bethel and settle there. Make an altar there for God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau." Bethel, you already know enough of Hebrew words which I told you that you may figure out what Bethel means. Bethlehem, what Bethlehem means?
Bread.
House of bread. Bethlehem, house of bread. Bethel, house of God. There will be the temple not approved by God in Bethel. I think Samaritan woman speaks when she speaks with Jesus. She asks, "Shall we worship in Jerusalem or here on our mountain?" And I think that's place is in Bethel. We read here already we already read, just to remind us, about Jacob came back to his country. We know his father died. Now he met Esau, and we would expect to meet his mother, but we didn't hear about Rebecca, except that Deborah, whom we never heard about before, was buried below Bethel under the oak tree. And so we explained already that this is in order to tell us that we don't speak about Rebecca because how she misled her husband or something. That's her punishment to be thrown out of the story. Let's see, from verse 16, we have Benjamin. Rachel gave birth to Benjamin and she dies, and Reuben makes big no-no. And then let's go to chapter 37, starting from verse 2. Now Jacob, you remember, he had one suffering in his childhood. We all have traumas from childhood. His was that his father preferred his brother. He always wanted the love of his brother. And what he does the same in his family. He has his favorite son. And that creates tension in the family. And his favorite son is Joseph. Why? He loved him more because he was first son of his beloved wife. He had 2 wives and 2 concubines, so they're less important. And he loved Rachel more. And that was, for a long time, only son of his beloved wife. And he showed his preference quite clearly. So let's see that first from verse 2 to 11.
Joseph was 17 years old. As he was young, he was shepherding the flock with his brothers, with the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. And Joseph brought his father bad reports about them. Jacob loved Joseph more than all his other sons, for he was the son of his old age, and he had a decorated tunic made for him. But his brothers, seeing how much more his father loved him than all his other sons, came to hate him so much that they could not say a civil word to him. Now Joseph had a dream, and he repeated it to his brothers, who then hated him more than ever. Listen, he said, to the dream I had. We were binding sheaves in the field, when my sheaf suddenly rose and stood upright. And then your sheaves gathered around and bowed to my sheaf. So you want to be king over us, his brothers retorted. You want to lord it over us. And they hated him even more, on account of his dreams and of what he said. He had another dream, which he recounted to his brothers. Look, I have had another dream, he said. There were the sun, the moon, and 11 stars, bowing down to me. He told his father and brothers, and his father scolded him. A fine dream to have, he said to him. Are all of us then, myself, your mother, and your brothers, to come and bow to the ground before you? His brothers held it against him, but his father pondered the matter.
Okay, just to give up the story ahead of time, because I know I sometimes forget to say it when it comes. You remember that passage when he will be prime minister in Egypt, and they come to get the food, and they bow down in front of the prime minister of Egypt. They don't know it's Joseph. So that passage will be fulfilled. And somebody said, all the dreams we hear will be doubles. We hear double dreams. Here we hear 2 similar versions of the dreams of the servants of Pharaoh in prison. We hear 2 Pharaoh's dreams. And the reason is we are told at the last, when we hear last dreams, Pharaoh's dreams, why there are 2 versions of same dream, is to Joseph says then, explains the dream. It is so because God had decided and matter is settled, and God for sure will bring it to fulfillment. The repetition of the dream means yes. I'm just a little bit amused with the action, with the words of the Father. Fine dream to have. I didn't decide which kind of dream will I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, of course, him telling the dream is kind of putting the wood in the salt in the wood or whatever, finger in the eye. if he really had a dream, it's not his fault. It seems that I don't know if he liked to take them off.
I think so. Yeah.
He feels so secure, beloved by his father, that he
You know, and the youngest, yeah, that's it. The youngest child is usually pretty well spoiled. And it isn't unusual for the youngest child to be doted upon because they don't have to, they're not usually as held as accountable as what older children have been over the years.
He seems like a very cocky guy. Somebody who would use.
That statement is almost like what a fine dream to have, like what a fine story to tell. Like they're not even really believing maybe it was a dream necessarily. Or
Yeah. We heard your stories, kind of. We heard the other stories you were telling.
A dream.
Let's see the reasons why they were hating him. Well, you see, he would bring bad reports about the brothers. He was. I never can remember this American.
Tattletale.
Tattletale, yes.
Tattletale.
He would.
Younger brother.
He enjoyed to do that. Look, they say they're working there and they play poker, and then father didn't make it easier on them because he made special tunic for them.
Yep.
Okay.
He was spoiled. He was the. I mean, out of that many brothers, he was probably the brat.
Mm-hmm.
What we would refer as the brat today.
Yeah, and also the dreams show that he really see himself or expected to be above everybody else.
Yeah.
And actually he will be, but...
Yeah.
Exactly, because that's what happens to those youngest children.
Hey, I am youngest child in my family.
He could be being overly judgy. I mean, maybe he did, like, in a nice way, say, I had this dream and this happened, and I don't know. He was the youngest, and when you have older siblings like that.
Well, he wasn't the youngest. They actually had Benjamin.
Yeah, Benjamin
Rachel's
came.
second son, who...
Yeah. Benjamin kind of almost is not mentioned. He came, but he's somewhere in the corner. Everybody forgets.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking it was after Joseph was taken away, was sold, but it was.
Yeah. But Benjamin was almost. I think he was him almost baby brother or something, at that point.
So Joseph was the baby for a long time.
Yeah.
He was the youngest.
Yeah.
We don't have age difference between Benjamin and Joseph, but the main notion is that it happened when he was already kind of bigger guy. Yeah. So one thing about the garment of Joseph, there are quite a lot of, especially in Protestant churches, they put a lot of emphasis on that. This tunic, the fathers of the church assume it was seamless tunic. It was priestly garb because he inherited the promises given to Jacob. So promises given to Jacob go to Joseph. So it's assumed that, I would need to read Fathers of the Church, how did they come to that idea, that would be seamless tunic, like the tunic of, he is a foretype of Jesus Christ. We have seen that. We did say that, yes? He's beloved son of his father, and he ends up going downhill and then becomes prime minister, same like Jesus Christ, beloved son of his father, going from heaven to earth, then to hell, and ends up king of the universe. And Jesus Christ had this seamless tunic, which is sign of his priesthood. Here, fathers of the church compared this tunic of Joseph with the seamless tunic of Jesus, and that this is his priestly dignity. We have two stories to read, this selling him by his brothers, and Judah and Tamar. Let's read first from verse 12.
His brothers went to pasture their father's flock at Shechem.
Yes, Shechem.
Then Israel said to Joseph, your brothers are with the flock at Shechem, aren't they? Come, I am going to send you to them. I am ready, he replied. He said to him, "Go and see how your brothers in the flocks are doing, and bring me word." He sent him from the valley of Hebron, and his Joseph arrived at Shechem. A man found him wandering in the countryside and asked him, "What are you looking for?" "I am looking for my brothers," he replied. "Please tell me where they are pasturing their flocks." The man answered, "They have moved on from here. Indeed, I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they made a plot to kill him. "Here comes that dreamer," they said to one another. "Come on, let us kill him now and throw him down one of the storage wells. We can say that some wild animal has devoured him. Then we shall see what becomes of his dreams." But Reuben heard, and he saved him from their clutches. "We must not take his life," he said. "Shed no blood," said Reuben to them. "Throw him down that well out in the desert, but do not kill him yourselves," intending to save him from them and to restore him to his father. So when Joseph reached his brothers, they pulled off his tunic, the decorated tunic, which he was wearing, and catching hold of him, threw him into the well. The well was empty with no water in it. Then they sat down to eat. Looking up, they saw a group of Ishmaelites who were coming from Gilead, their camels laden with gum, balsam and russin, which they were taken to Egypt. Then Judah said to his brothers, "What do we gain by killing our brother and covering up his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites. Then we shall not have laid hands on him ourselves. After all, he is our brother and our own flesh." And his brothers agreed. Keep going.
Yeah.
Now some of the Mennonite merchants were passing, and they pulled Joseph out of the well. They sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver, and these men took Joseph to Egypt. When Reuben went back to the well, there was no sign of Joseph. Tearing his clothes, he went back to his brothers. The boy has gone," he said. "What am I going to do?" They took Joseph's tunic and, slaughtering a goat, dipped the tunic in the blood. Then they sent off the decorated tunic and had it taken to their father with the message, "This is what we have found. Do you recognize it as your son's tunic or not?" He recognized it and cried, "My son's tunic. A wild animal has devoured him. Joseph has been torn to pieces." Tearing his clothing and putting sackcloth round his waist, Jacob mourned his son for many days. All his sons and daughters tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "No," he said, "I will go down to Sheol in the morning and join my son." Thus his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials and commander of the guard.
So there are several interesting points here. Now, first, before I'm starting comment, any comments from you? Come on, comments and questions.
Well, he was sold for 20 pieces of silver as Jesus was sold for 30.
Mm-hmm.
Reuben was going to save him, but then Judah kind of agreed, but then Judah wanted to sell him and then Reuben comes back later.
Okay, when Reuben comes back, somebody who doesn't have New Jerusalem Bible, can somebody read in some other translation verse?
I've got, when Reuben came back to the well, there was no sign of Joseph. Tearing his clothes, he went back to his brothers. The boy has disappeared, he said. What am I going to do?
Okay, some other translation that's smoothened up. There is a important thing there. Somebody else? That's verse 30.
It says, when Reuben went back to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not in it, he tore his clothes, and returning to his brothers, he exclaimed, "The boy is gone, and where can I turn?"
Okay, that's a bit better. it sounds more confusing, and I'll explain why is that important. We were saying about literary device, they call it form follows the content. Here, situation is very confusing. They decide what to do, they change their mind. Joseph is in cistern, looking out, not knowing what is happening, he's confused. So there is confused language to reflect the confusion of situation. Okay, so we have, for example, they decide to sell them to Ishmaelites, and at the end they send him to Midianites. At the end, last sentence, it's not Midianites that many translations smooth it over, it's Medanites, the third group, which sounds like Midianites, but many translations smooth it over. And there was intentional confusion in all this. Same like Reuben says, some confused sentence. How was in your translation? I forgot. Translation I have here. He says, and where am I to come? It's absolutely almost syntax and everything is wrong. Intentionally wrong. You understand? It's not that the authors didn't have spell check and grammar check and they could not see that. They didn't have it, yes. With time they would improve it, but even in hundreds of transcribing on the Bible, nobody wanted to make it better, to correct the sentence to something what is proper. But everybody who was transcribing the Bible, they realized that it's intentional confusion there to reflect the confusion of the situation. Okay, make sense? And the translators who want to make good translation, they smooth it over. They make translation which is not confused. You understand? So that's they didn't get the point that this is literary device. Anything else on this story? We mentioned already once the guy with whom they speak. You see, whole story hang on very small detail. Joseph go to search brothers and he cannot find them. And suddenly he finds a man who tells him, oh, I have heard your brothers, they go to Dothan. Without that man, he would never find them. He would never be sold, probably. This whole story would go nowhere. This anonymous man is the key for the story. We have to see in this anonymous man the providence of God. God intervened through sending this man, providing that this man may hear where are they going, and providing that this man is there in the right time to tell Joseph, your brothers are there. It was the will of God. As later on we will see Joseph saying, it was God who used your sin to save the family. Okay, that's my translation. Okay, we'll come a little bit back on this story, but we need to read the next story of Judah and Tamar. Very strange story, but we'll need to read it to connect.
So starting at 38.
Yes.
It happened at that time that Judah left his brothers to go down and stay with an Adullamite named Hira, where Judah saw the daughter of a Canaanite called Shua. He made her his wife and slept with her. She conceived and gave birth to a son, whom she named She conceived again and gave birth to a son, whom she named Onan. Yet again she gave birth to a son, whom she named Shelah. She was at Shezib when she gave birth to him. Judah took a wife for his firstborn and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, offended Yahweh greatly, so Yahweh brought about his death. Then Judah said to Onan, take your brother's wife and do your duty as her brother-in-law, to produce a child for your brother. But Onan, knowing the child would not be his, spilled his seed on the ground every time he slept with his brother's wife, to avoid providing a child for his brother. What he did was offensive to Yahweh, so he brought about his death also. Then Judah said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, return home as a widow to your father and wait for my son Shelah to grow up. For he was thinking, he must not die like his brothers. So Tamar went back home to her father. A long time passed, and then Shua's daughter, the wife of Judah, died. After Judah had been comforted, he went up to Timnah to the men who sheared his sheep, himself and Hurrah, his Adullamite friend. This was reported to Tamar. Listen, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah for the shearing of his sheep. She therefore changed her widow's clothes, wrapped a veil around her, and sat down, heavily swathed, where the road to Enem branches off the road to Timnah. Shelah had now grown up, as she saw, and yet she had not been given to him as his wife. Judah, seeing her, took her for a prostitute, since her face was veiled. Going up to her on the road, he said, "Come, let me sleep with you." He did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. "What will you give me to sleep with me?" she asked. "I will send you a kid from the flock," he answered. "Agreed, if you give me a pledge until you send it," she answered. "What pledge shall I give you?" he asked. "Your seal, your cord, and the stick you are holding," she answered. He gave them to her and slept with her, and she conceived by him. Then she rose and left him, and taking off her veil, she put on her widow's weeds. Judah sent the kid by his Adullamite friend to recover the pledge from the woman, but he did not find her. He inquired from the men of the place, "Where is the prostitute who is by the roadside at Enem?" But there was no prostitute there, they answered. So returning to Judah, he said, "I did not find her. What is more, the men of the place told me there had been no prostitute there." "Let her keep what she has," Judah replied, "or we shall become a laughingstock. At least I sent her this kid, even though you did not find her." About 3 months later, it was reported to Judah, "Your daughter-in-law has played the harlot. Furthermore, she is pregnant as a result of her misconduct. Take her outside and burn her," said Judah. But as she was being led off, she sent this message to her father-in-law. "It was the man to whom these things belong who made me pregnant. Look at them," she said, "and see whose seal and cord and stick these are." Judah examined them and then said, "She is in the right rather than I. This comes of my not giving her to my son Shelah to be his wife." He had no further intercourse with her. When the time for her confinement came, she was found to have twins in her womb. During the delivery, one of them put out a hand, and the midwife caught it and tied a scarlet thread to it, saying, "This is the first to arrive." But he drew his hand back, and it was his brother who came out first. When she said, "What a breach you have opened for yourself." So he was named Perez. When his brother came out, and the scarlet thread on his hand, so he was named Zerah.
And there are many strangeness in that story. First, strangeness, at least I found, whatever is first, I found it first. We are just in the middle of the story of Joseph. Very important thing. Why did they interrupt the story of Joseph with this strange story? That's one thing to ponder. Second, for us it's strange, for them it's not strange, this custom. We heard probably, as you study the Bible, we heard about that custom that the widow has to marry the brother, younger brother, and here what happened, Judah is not willing to risk the life of his youngest son, and Tamar, she's not free to go and marry somebody else. She has to wait in the house. She even is not free to go to the movies, and so she has to wait in the house. So she has to do something. In parentheses, just to add another interesting thing, if you open Gospel of Matthew, first chapter, there is genealogy of Jesus. In genealogy of Jesus are mostly men and several strange women. One of these strange women will be Tamar. She is in genealogy of Jesus. From, I think, Perez will be the forefather of Jesus. So in genealogy of Jesus, we have, if women are mentioned, they are usually very strange women, okay? Like Tamar, who played the prostitute. And before that, Rahab, who was a prostitute. Jesus didn't come from nice ground.
That just kind of shows what...
Here we have Judah and Tamar. And Judah basically is tricked by Tamar. Judah was not fair to Tamar, and he was tricked by her. What are the main you will not notice one. There are two main things which you have to remember. And I told you in one story before, if I could, I would underline some elements in the story, and we have to recognize same elements in this story. And this is the vestment. She uses vestment, and there is kid, the goat in the story, which are very important. Vestment and kid. Why is that important? So Judah was tricked by utilizing vestment and kid. Okay, are we still on the same page? And Judah, in turn, he tricked his father Jacob or Israel using what?
Kid's blood, and they tore Joseph's tunic, and then they used kid's
Tunic
blood.
of Joseph, which they dipped in the blood of the kid, of the goat. So he used same elements to trick his father, correct?
Right.
And Jacob used the vestment of his brother Esau, correct? And the goat skin to trick his father Isaac.
Yep.
Do you see? I found this beautiful.
It's all a connection, isn't it?
Yes. The deceiver gets deceived.
Yeah.
It's in the genes.
Well, it's kind of shows the justice of God. Not that God comes and punch you in the face or something, but somehow it shows in some way your action cannot get absolutely, and doesn't mean that this is that God will come and punish us or whatever. But it means that once you release evil in the world, that evil will have effect. Okay, and most probably it seems Old Testament says will come back on us. In New Testament we know different story. Jesus Christ comes and says, okay, bring all this evil on me. Only thing what we need is to embrace, to be united with Jesus Christ. He takes evil on himself, we take life from him. So we don't get the consequence of our action as long as we are united with Christ. Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
That's why Jesus Christ died on the cross, that we may be free from our sins. Not in legalistic sense that once we die, we don't get punished and go to hell. No, even we don't get the consequence of our sins. And we'll see even in Old Testament, the brothers didn't get the consequences of their sins. They were forgiven and so on. They sold Joseph and he forgave them. But I would say main way to get free in Old Testament and also in the New Testament from the consequence of our sin, to recognize, yes, I have sinned.
Right.
Repentance is the essence to be free from only then the action of God can enter and make us free. Okay?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yes, it does.
Nobody wants to say something contrary.
I'm busy writing it down so I can look at it later.
So I don't know if you find that very interesting. I found it very, very interesting. And also, this shows, I think this story, this connection of these stories kind of blows up the theory that whole Old Testament is piecemealed from these different authors. You see at the end, there is one author behind all this. He might have used some story which he heard from him and from here, but ultimately there is one author behind. I think that's very clear.
Yeah.
You may say this one author is Holy Spirit. You may say that is, I don't know, some Abdullah from Genesis.
On the ancestry of Jesus in the beginning of Matthew, it lists Isaac fathered Jacob, Jacob fathered Judah and his brothers. So it mentions Judah, which was like the fourth or fifth son of Leah, not the first son, and it wasn't Joseph.
Yes.
Joseph fathered Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar, and then Perez fathered Hezron. So they're following the line of Judah instead of Joseph.
Yes.
So why is Joseph takes up so much of the story instead of more on Judah?
Well, here Joseph shows all the that all the promises given to Jacob are given here to Joseph. He is foretype of Jesus Christ. But then the kingdom will come from Judah. We'll at the end, at one point, we are going to read the promises given to Israel, prophecy when he blesses his sons. We may go there. That might be interesting since we just read the story of Tamar. That's interesting. So that's chapter 49 in Genesis. We'll read from verse 8. And remember, as you read that, there is symbolic hint on the story of Tamar.
Judah, your brothers will praise you. You grip your enemies by the neck. Your father's sons will do you homage. Judah is a lion's whelp. You stand over your prey, my son. Like a lion, he crouches and lies down. A mighty lion, who dare arouse him? The scepter shall not pass from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute be brought him, and the peoples render him obedience. He tethers his donkey to the vine, to its staff the foal of his she-donkey. He washes his clothes in wine, his robes in the blood of the grape. His eyes are darkened with wine, and his teeth are white with milk.
Okay. Now, Judah, you will have to remember, Judah, he is a lion. And later on, there will be, in book of Revelation, there will be a lion, remember? So that's connection, one connection. I like very much where he says here, like a lion crouches and lie down. Where is the? No, the scepter shall not pass from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet. Okay. What was story about staff and Tamar? He gave his staff to Tamar, you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Not the ruler's staff from between his feet, something he used from between his feet where was not supposed to go.
Yep.
Yep. You see that hint? Very subtle hint.
Well, it's a good thing we got you to really help us get these connections, Father.
Yeah.
Father, I do have a question here.
Yes.
Jacob did not choose his firstborn son.
Yes. We mentioned that it's kind of actually Jacob did. No, Jacob's firstborn son. He chose the last one, almost last one, even not. But there is this story in Old Testament, whole Old Testament, not only Genesis, which constantly show favor for the underdog. The youngest son is worth nothing. The women are worth nothing, especially barren women are worth absolutely. And they constantly get pushed above their grade, pay grade, you understand, by the providence of God. So it shows constantly not so much human predilection, but God's predilection for those whom people don't appreciate. Here, Joseph was appreciated by his father, but at the end, the tribe of Judah was, but even Judah is not the firstborn. I think Reuben is firstborn.
Reuben was the firstborn, but wasn't he the one in one of the chapters here at some point that he slept with his father's wife?
Yes, he made incense.
And
yes.
so he
not with the wife, with the concubine.
knocked him down.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the other two sons were the ones that when Dinah was raped, they went in and killed the people, and they had to move. So they were kind of knocked out of favor.
Of line of succession, yeah.
Yeah. So now it comes down to Judah.
Well, as I said before, none of them is perfect. Neither Judah is perfect.
No, he's not too good either.
Did we answer the question why this story was put in the middle of Joseph's story?
I think that it's exactly to make this connection of deceiver and deceived. I think that was the reason why it was put here. We just had Judah deceived his father. So let's finish this line. And Tamar didn't get deceived because she was seeking justice. What was done to her was unjust. So I guess she was not deceived. So the story, the chain ends here.
Right.
Okay, but I think that would be the reason why you would put this story here, just to end up that chain of deceivers and deceived. Anyway, that's my explanation. And let's try to see, I believe it's in Revelation chapter 5, so we'll finish there then. Okay, you can go. We'll need verse 5.
I saw that on the right hand of the one sitting on the throne, there was a scroll that had writing on back and front that was sealed with 7 seals. Then I saw a powerful angel who called with a loud voice, "Is there anyone worthy to open the scroll and break the seals of it?" But there was no one in heaven or on the earth or under the earth who was able to open the scroll and read it. I wept bitterly because there was nobody fit to open the scroll and read it. But one of the elders said to me, "There is no need to cry. The Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed, and he will open the scroll and the 7 seals of it." Then I saw, standing between the throne with its 4 animals and the circle of the elders, a lamb that seemed to have been sacrificed. It had 7 horns, and it had 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God, who spirits of God has sent out over all the world.
Okay, good enough. I like that part of the Bible where there is the one who can open the scroll is Lion from the tribe of Judah. And I turned and I saw lamb, and what a strange lamb it is. 7 horses.
Wow.
You expect lion and you see lamb, but all this fits in one picture. That's what Bible can do.